Now for a chat on superannuation, we're joined by Will Vanderpoel, writer with Market Forces. Will, tell us about this analysis you've undertaken on super funds and their sustainable investment options. What have you guys uncovered?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So what we've looked at is the investment options that are labelled sustainable or socially responsible of Australia's largest superannuation funds. And what we found is that many of these options are not actually living up to their labels. So 8 of the 11 investment options that we studied were actually found to be investing in companies undermining climate action by expanding the scale of the fossil fuel industry. We found investments in companies developing new coal mines and oil and gas fields, and some coal and gas power generation facilities as well. So the reason we did this analysis is because Market Forces has worked with tens of thousands of superannuation members to raise concerns about their retirement savings being invested in companies and activities driving climate change. And when they raise these concerns with super funds, the funds often point those members to their sustainable options. But this analysis shows that many of those options are not actually as clean and green as the super funds make them out to be.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, for a lot of people? Many have self-managed funds and they watch it closely with whoever looks after it for them. But others, well, the money just goes off into the left direction and they don't know what happens to it.
Yeah, well, we found an increasing number of members using tools like we provide at Market Forces to look into where their super is being invested and to try and ensure that those investments align with their own personal values.
Is there a case here for regulators to investigate, do you think?
Well, we think there's at least a case for investigation. So Australia's corporate regulator, ASIC, recently published some guidance on particularly focused at greenwashing in the financial services sector. And that guidance warned that offering sustainability-linked financial products that were not actually true to label or that used vague terminology could actually constitute a breach of misleading and deceptive conduct rules. So Market Forces has actually referred the findings of our analysis to ASIC for further investigation.
What would the consequences be if these funds are found to be in breach of their obligations?
Yeah, well, I guess that is a matter for ASIC, and they will look into it. And there are a range of potential issues that could come up. As I said, misleading and deceptive conduct. There are also quite stringent disclosure obligations that face providers of sustainability-linked financial products. So depending on if and where breaches could be found, there are quite a range of potential outcomes there. So couldn't really say what exactly the potential sanctions could be, but certainly it is an issue that ASIC has been quite vocal that it is looking into and it is concerned about.
I know you're not a financial advisor, but what would be the advice to people who have concerns about where their money's going in super?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's to really scrutinise the super funds and where they are investing. So, fortunately now, after years of delay, super funds now have to disclose all their investment holdings. So, we as Market Forces can analyse those holdings, and we do this. We analyse the investments that super funds make in different companies, and particularly companies that are expanding the scale of the fossil fuel sector. So using the information that is out there, super fund members can find out where their super is being invested. They can get in touch with their fund and really ask it to invest in a way that aligns with their own values and ensure that it is invested in companies that are, actively driving the transition to a lower emissions future rather than those that are taking us in the opposite direction. So doing the research and then getting in contact with the fund to ensure that investments align with, the future that they want to retire into.
Absolutely. Good on you, Will. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Tim.